Hey folks, welcome to Guitar Daily. It's Nick Granville. That's my vocal level. I think that needs to come up a little bit. Let's do that. Oh, that's better. Here we go. How's everyone doing? Oh, I see. Didn't need that. I was wondering where it was coming from. I was like, hang on, something weird going on. Really enjoying that sound at the moment. That was actually my iPad playing back through the speakering, and I could hear it in here. I was like, what the hell's going on? It's funny, I've never actually played a real Fredman amp, but that's a Fredman amp model in the Fractal, the FM9, and yeah, it's got this really cool delay on it, which is kind of an emulation of the Aurora. It's called the Aurora delay. It's sort of an emulation of that Halo thing, the Andy Timmons thing. Here's the same sound, but with the 808 tube screamer in front of it. Hang on, what's going on there? Lost all sound. Huh, weird. Oh, maybe that's it. Nope. Sounds great. Maybe it's the expression pedal. Yeah, it is. Damn it. I just plugged in an expression pedal, a different one than I normally use. And it was taking some configuring, and then it wasn't working, and then it was. So I'm going to try that again and see if it, plug it back in, works. No, damn it. Oh well. I was using one of these. The old Boss, Dunlop Volume X. They have an expression out, but it doesn't work particularly well with the Fractal, I've found. The scope, the sweep, you can calibrate it, but it doesn't tend to work with it overly great, but that's okay. I normally use a Fractal one, which just works perfectly. But that's with my setup for gigs. So I was thinking about this live stream, and I thought kind of the theme of what I'll do today to work on this would be kind of talking about primarily two things. Just funk guitar and also soloing. Two things that I do a lot of. Yeah, so... It's not my favorite amp for the clean funky tones, but let's go to that. I think one of the things with stuff like that I think a lot of people struggle with is like funk rhythm guitar is kind of being able to play in the pocket. And what's meant by that is like just keeping it right exactly where the groove is and being consistent with that, right? If I play something like... I mean, the word groove itself, if you think about it, like if something has a groove, right, and you follow down that groove, right, you don't try and steer off here, you follow with where it's going. I think that's where a lot of people go. And so how do you work on that, right? One of the things you can do is just work on getting this happening first. If anyone's got any questions, let me know. So we're just essentially getting a groove like that. And then just put an accent on. Just go with that. And work on getting that so the right hand has some motion about it. It's all from the wrist. It's this. It's not this. It's Interesting thing, I've seen people talk about what to do with the hand. I think there's something in having the hand loose and open. I've seen Corey Wong does that. I've seen Rob Harris talk about that too. You know, this kind of thing I don't work so well, but do whatever works for you. But the thing you want to do with that kind of motion, that rhythm guitar, that funk thing, is just get your inner clock in terms of tempo locking in with what you're doing with your hands, right? So we just, and I do this with a metronome. I just don't have one handy at the moment because I'm using my phone for this and using my iPad for that. So I don't actually own a physical metronome anymore. My metronome is now just in my phone, just like everything else. I'm actually thinking about doing a video where I'm going to talk about all the stuff that I use on my phone. So yeah, look out for that one. But kind of the underlying thing is that, right? And I find that most people kind of have a groove that's kind of their thing, that sort of is what they'll default to, right? And it's really important to work on that, of course. But try and work on other things. Like that might be my default groove there, right? But maybe I could try something like is also going. And maybe my next groove could be. Which is the classic James Brown tune, Sex Machine. And I swap to the telly. Sort of feels a bit more like telly sort of grooves. I'm actually planning on doing a video sort of about how different guitars make you play a certain way, and they really do. So you can see something like that. The idea out of it is that I'm trying to figure out where the groove is and then staying there consistently. And you know when you've got it right because you see the audience kind of going like this. And they don't really know they're doing it, but they just they've caught the groove, right? If anyone has any questions, fire them in the comments below. I've got the chat open on my iPad here so I can see it. The telly is one of my favorite sounds, especially that mid pickup setting. There's just something about that. Especially for this. Just a great sound. But I mean, tellies can rock too, you know? So if you just joined me, please like the video. All that stuff helps. And if you have any questions, let me know in the chat, and I'll happy to cover it. But I'll talk about funk guitar, right? So that's kind of a rhythm guitar approach of what I was taking before. It's like, you know, this getting the right hand motion, right? And with the left hand, a lot of the muting that happens in this stuff happens in the left hand. So if I take a C7 chord like this, I might go chord and then I lift my fingers off, but I'm not lifting them out here, or I want to just lift them off till I get that. You can see the difference between like a chorded sound and a muted sound. So it's just something like this. So let's settle about there. And do this with a metronome, I just don't have one handy. And then go. Now, it's really important to tap your foot when you're doing this, right? I remember seeing a thing of Tommy Emmanuel, and Tommy Emmanuel was saying that, you know, his first advice to anyone who comes to his workshops or whatever is tap your foot, right? Because you're internalizing a beat. Now, I remember someone saying to me once that you shouldn't tap your foot because your foot's not MIDI to the music, MIDI synced or something. And I thought, but the whole idea to me of tapping your foot is to internalize the beat, right? So I actually find it really hard to play without tapping my foot. I remember once I did a recording session for someone and they said, can we ask you to remove an item of clothing? And I was like, really? And he said, can you take your shoes off? Because I could hear my foot going bang, bang, bang to... It's different from... That's a cool sound too. This is a different sound. To me, neck pickup, when I play a neck pickup on a Telecaster, I kind of think this thing. Even this. You know, kind of more a soloing thing. Bridge pickup on a Telecaster for me is like either country, but even then I don't play very much country, so it's not, I don't really even hear that as that. To me, when I play the bridge pickup, I think... I wish that was in tune. So annoying and off-putting. I hate out-of-tune guitars. I don't know about you all, but... it bugs me probably more than anything else when it comes to playing guitar is tuning. Because it's kind of... It's not just like the notes, like on their own. Like if I play... You know, if that was in tune relative to itself, that's fine. But things don't resonate together in the right way if it's not in tune. But what I do like doing with that kind of sound, right? If I'm on the bridge pickup and I got that rock thing and I want to make it kind of funky, what I'll do is just turn back a little bit. No treble bleed on this guitar. Make sure I got the volume, so I'll often kick the volume up because... Now that's a funky sound. So yeah, so that's a cool sound too, using the bridge pickup. The Tellys have this thing where they have these two sidewalls that make it kind of hard to play down there, but you can still do it. It's not impossible. You know, these guitars were pretty simple kind of things, right? If you think about it, I mean, a place for me. I can just reach it, but I'd rather it was where a Strat is. So. In comes this guitar. Stay. Don't know why I do that, right? Tell the guitar to stay as if it's going to listen to me. So RW, thank you, says, I'm considering a treble bleed on my guitar. Interesting that you mention it. Why would you use it? Okay, so it's funny enough, I'm thinking about putting a treble bleed on this guitar. It really bothers me that it doesn't have one. I've just changed the pickups. I've got a video coming out where I'm going to talk about that, the reasons why and all the rest of it. I find P90s to be some of the worst when it comes to how you turn a volume pot down and what it does to the tone. You know, losing top end. So if I go like this, actually let's go to clean. You'll hear my microphone too, it's kind of hard with that, so if I turn down, even just a little bit, I'll turn my mic off. It's like all that top end zing goes on it. So the thing with a treble bleed that you need to understand, and this is something that where a lot of people get confused, is I think a treble bleed, just means that you turn the volume down and you don't lose your sound, right? It's absolutely not what it does. A treble bleed does exactly what the name implies. It lets the treble bleed through, right? So when you're turning down the volume, what you're actually doing is turning down the other frequencies, the bass and mid, right? And if you think about a guitar is a mid-range instrument. So yes, it will seem like it's getting down, but it's also getting thinner in the process, right? Some guitars, it doesn't really suit it. I don't like treble bleeds on a Telecaster. To me, do I really want a Tele to be any brighter than it is? So I don't want just the treble to get through. I'm just going to get a nasty tone. To me, it's like one of the benefits of turning down a volume control on a Tele is that it might wind off a little bit at the top, right? So then what I can do is I can use that to my advantage. If I've got a sound that's too bright, I'll just turn down the volume control on the guitar a little bit, and sometimes that's enough to just take that ice pick part off a Telecaster or a Strat, all right? But on a guitar like this, that's fat and warm. You can hear it straight away, right? It's taken off a lot of the top end. Now there are 50s wiring, which changes how guitars work, and 60s wiring, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what this has. It's just been wired kind of how it was. I put these pickups in myself and I just kind of hacked it in to get it going. It is what it is. But I want to put a treble bleed on there because then when I turn down, I can also retain my treble, which is what I'm losing on the P90s, but also kind of make it thinner if I want to do that, right? Because essentially it's letting more treble through. Now, enter the DGT. This has one of the best treble bleed systems I've ever seen. I don't know what they do, but it works. It's one of the things I like about this guitar so much. Right, so if I go, let's go bridge pickup. Jacket chord on that. It's one reason I don't particularly like jackets. I remember having we had a gig with Eric Marienthal, the great saxophone player, and this button here caught on a string and went bang and pulled it. It was so loud during the gig, and I was like, not my fault, It was my fault because I had a blooming jacket on I had to wear. But anyway, back to the treble bleeds. Still sounds the same, it's just getting thinner though, isn't it? Really noticeable on this. My volume on 5 on the guitar, which on a lot of other guitars would just be muddy. I believe Andy Timmons uses a treble bleed on his guitars, so if Andy does it, it's a good idea, right? Because that guy sounds killer. I love Andy's playing. So that's what I would do. So to me, it's like humbucker guitars and P90 guitars. I prefer treble bleeds. Single coil guitars I don't. But what do you do if you have a guitar that has both, right? Then you got to weigh it up time by time. I might play some music. Why don't I do that? I haven't played anything yet. This is Fusion Ballad backing track in B minor. I've played this one before. I quite like this track. Don't ask me to pronounce who it's by. It looks like a name that's in Russian with a bunch of symbols that I have no idea how to say or whatever. So we'll just say Fusion Ballad backing track B minor 121 beat per minute. If you search for that, you'll find it. G'day, how are you? This is a cool track. I love playing ballads. I know some people kind of don't, but I'm into it. So I was going to do some sort of Jeff Beck type melody things there, and I thought better of it, right? I thought better of it because this guitar doesn't have locking tuners. It's the one thing missing from this guitar. I started looking at some last night. If anyone has suggestions for locking tuners, which one do you think would be the best on this sort of guitar, do let me know. I had a look at the Phase 2 locking tuners by Paul Reed Smith, thinking Paul Reed Smith guitar locking tuners, crazy expensive. I think they were going to cost me about $350 New Zealand plus shipping, so that would be like $10,000, because shipping here is ridiculous for some reason. So I looked at that. The thing I find with those Phase 2 locking tuners is they stick out too far. They kind of look awkward to me. So I was tempted to try some Gotos or something like that. I think I've got Gotos on my Talman, which are really nice. I like the ones that have the little wheel on the back. I don't want anything that takes a key or a coin or something like that, because that's kind of a pain, right? To me, it's as soon as you have to use a tool, then it's like, this doesn't work. I just want it to be attached on there, like a little wheel or something, some kind of way like that. The little wing nut Paul Reed Smith ones used to work pretty good back in the day, I think. So yeah, anyway, that's what I'm going to do with that. So that's a fun track, right? It's this kind of interesting chord progression. G major 7. F sharp minor. That's saying sharp 5. It's really like E flat over, or D over F sharp. G. It's this progression, then D over F sharp. And then F major 7. It's out of key, and then back. But there's something big about, there's a B minor chord in there, so it kind of goes, should have said this a minute ago, and then, right, it's got that big fat C sharp in there, so it's really a Lydian sound. And I find that, I've talked about Lydian quite a bit on this channel because it's one of my favorite sounds. I love the sound of Lydian. And one of the big things with Lydian, what I find is that people tend to kind of take one or two perspectives on it. They either view it as G Lydian or they view it as D major over G, right? And both are good, but why not use both at the same time, right? And kind of go in between them. And I think that's where the lack of understanding tends to come, is that people get kind of confused. They sort of something in D major at the moment. And then maybe someone else might be G major. You can see even straight away, just by changing my thinking, I had two different sounds, right? Like both of those, my phrasing was different, my ideas are different. And the main reason is that if we're thinking G, like our perspective now is G is the root, B is the third, D is the fifth, F sharp is the seventh, and then extensions above that, right? But if we think about it from a D major perspective, now D becomes our root note, at least from our thinking. It's not, it's the fifth, but our thinking is like D1, F sharp 3, A, right? So you've automatically introduced a 9 as our 5th, and you can't help that when you're thinking in a key. We kind of programmed ourselves to think these things, haven't we? Right, that's how much music goes that way, but that's not really the perspective. And then there's your Lydian note. So you can see the treble bleed working really well now. Because my volume's on about 5 and yet I'm still got top end, right? Any questions? Any stuff you guys want to know? If you just joined me, please like the video. It all helps. So I hope that answers the question about why a treble bleed. One of the handiest things of a treble bleed too is, like, if you have an overdrive sound like that, you're not really turning down volume, you're turning down gain. I think that might have been how I did it. I think I probably had my volume about there on the same sound when we did We Will Rock You. So RW says, thank you, very interesting take. I have an SSH guitar. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so single coil humbucker. Now that kind of throws into something, doesn't it? Because I was talking before about I like triple bleeds on humbuckers but not on single coils. What do you do if you have a guitar that has both? I always look at that as kind of, what do I primarily use? Do I primarily use the single coils or do I primarily use the humbucker? Then I make a decision based on that. And also, what kind of humbucker is it? Is it a really hot humbucker that could benefit from being a bit what do I say? It could benefit with having some of the meat taken out of it, the gain taken out of it by turning down the volume? Or is it like a humbucker that's maybe more vintagey, like what I typically go for in these sorts of guitars? The other thing too is coil splits help. So we got this. And I heard no difference. That's because there's so much gain that even coil splitting it's and so actually that made a big difference in that sound, right? Because that's a clean sound with a bit of hair on it too. The other thing too is you got to remember, if you coil split, it's quite lively, isn't it? Never noticed that before. There you go. Usually I would just pull the volume pedal back, but this expression pedal isn't working with the fractal, so I need to get my fractal one out. Cool. So yeah, so Lydian, that's kind of what I was getting into in that one. Let's do another one. This is a really interesting track. This is Modern Jazz Fusion Jam Track in C minor, Supernova, BJT number 38. So BJT stands for Ben's Jam Tracks. I've used this guy's stuff to do these things before. I really like his tracks. I think they're great, and he has some really interesting kind of chord progressions in this stuff. So this one, I'll talk about it in a minute, but it's kind of centered around C minor, but you got to play chord changes. You can't just play C minor, it's not going to work. Let's get that started. So this is a little intro. Good on you, Ben. I don't know Ben. I'd like to. This stuff's good. Yeah, so that's a fun track. It's got some interesting chord changes. Plymouth jacket got me again after talking about that. Maybe I have to do that. And then that looks kind of dumb, doesn't it? Maybe I shouldn't have put this jacket on, but anyway, you get the idea. So C minor, sort of built off C minor and then A flat major 7. I hear it more as A flat than the sharp 11, but I'm sure the sharp 11 exists. So kind of C minor based and then A flat. And then the next bit, the B section's the bit that's cool in this, right? F minor, right? 4 chord, that's kind of pretty straightforward. E major 7, and then E flat major 7, B major 7. Tasty chords, eh? And then all of that, 1 bar per each chord, and then back to the C minor. Pretty cool. I've seen some comments coming through. I should jump back to those. Volumes off. Simon's here. Hi Nick, just managed to catch you. The UK is not great, is it, to do this? Thanks again for your channel. Oh, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I think many people don't like... Oh, sorry, I'm jumping across comments. Thanks again for your channel. It's a great start to my day here in the UK. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you tuning in, man. It's awesome. I'm glad you could finally make it. It's not good timing. I think that New Zealand's kind of, it's a little island nation in the bottom of the world. Punches above its weight in some ways, little old New Zealand though, like Lord of the Rings and things like that. And, various musicians, Crowded House, and various people have kind of taken it to the world. But really in New Zealand, our time zones are completely different, So it doesn't necessarily work for stuff like this for a lot of people. Someone did say to me once that the best time for me to do these is the best time that suits me, because then that means I'm going to be able to consistently keep doing it. And I thought that's the kind of the way I'm going to have to do it, because if I want to keep doing this, so it's going to be. So yeah, hopefully you. Oh, Leon says New Zealand punches way above its weight. Oh, thank you, dude. Yes, I think so sometimes too, and Australia too. Man, there's some epic Australian musicians. Holy heck. Simon says Triple Bleed, great when they work well, really need to be dialed into each guitar. Yes, I think so too. I think many people don't like them because they fit something and expect a one-size-fits-all. I agree. I think so as well. So Mitchell says, hey Nick, do you know Dixon Nacy? He's a great jazz player from New Zealand. I do. Dixon's one of my dear friends. I love Dixon's playing. He's probably one of my favourite guitar players in New Zealand. Him, Warren Mendonza, Lee Jackson, Harry Harrison in Christchurch. These people really can play. Dixon's a bad dude. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I remember Dixon and I did a 2-guitar thing in Auckland at the Creative Jazz Club. And, jazz club meaning we were doing our kind of version of jazz, fusion-y type stuff, and it was funny, all these Auckland Uni students came to sit in the front row, because they're all Dixon students when he used to teach at Auckland Uni, and I overheard a couple of them talking. They're going, who's that guy, about me? And they were like, who's that guy? And then it nudges his mate, and his mate goes, I don't know who he is. Dixon's going to waste him. Like music's a competition, and Dixon and I, we're good friends, so we're just we played music because we wanted to, and I respect him a huge deal. He's someone I've always thought is a badass, and so we played the gig, and then afterwards those kids all came up and were like, do you have any CDs? Can we buy your CDs? Will you sign them for us? Gotcha. Leon, dude, thank you for tuning in. I really enjoyed Leon's your live stream earlier. If people don't know about Leon Todd, you should, wherever you've been. Leon's a bad dude from Australia, plays his ass off, has a wonderful YouTube channel. I've watched it. I've learned a lot of stuff about fractal. Just the other day I was trying to figure out how to add an external switch to my FM3, so I went on Leon's channel, and sure enough there was a video on it that was really clear about how to do it. My switch won't work for it, so I'm going to have to buy a replacement. I was trying to make my old Mesa Boogie Revolver 2-button foot switch work, but it just wasn't kind of working out. I want one side on my FM3 to permanently be a boost. Sounds like a plane overhead. And then I want the other side to be for the tap tempo. I find that especially when I coil tap, I want to have that volume matched. So Leon says, can't afford to be a dickhead here. Everyone will immediately know. It's how the New Zealand scene was described. Yeah, totally, right? It's pretty small, right? Everybody knows everybody, at least in terms of the pro guitar thing, you know. Although there is still some separation between Auckland and everywhere else, you know. Occasionally there's a guitar player up there called Ben White that I've been hearing about. I've never met Ben, but you know, because there is enough separation, and Ben's a young cat, you know, he's kind of new on the scene. And I was talking to Zach, who was the MD for We Will Rock You, and he said, do you know Ben White? And I was like, no, but it's the second time I've heard this guy's name. And he was telling me how good he was and all the rest of it, and we were thinking about him as potentially a sub for the show for We Will Rock You. Because, you know, if something had happened, say it hurt my hand, I need someone to come in and be able to do that stuff. And I was like, well, I can't recommend him because I don't know him, but I'm sure if you say he's good, you know. And but there is still that separation between Wellington and Auckland and stuff, you know, which happens. Oh, good morning. RW says, I was listening to Leon's stream earlier. Yeah, me too. He mentions using the middle finger as a pivot point for the fast stuff. Does this translate to chords also? Yeah, so my kind of approach to that has always been the middle finger. This second finger is kind of, if you look at it, it's kind of in line with your thumb almost. So when I'm thinking about position, say I'm at the 5th fret position like this, these two fingers are really what's defining it, and everything's kind of pivoting off that when I'm staying in a position. So say I have 5, 4, 6, 7, 8. If I want the 9th fret, I bring my little finger over and then come back into position. If I want this fret, I bring that one over and bring it back. But it's kind of, this is kind of what's locking it into place, is that second finger, right? Same thing kind of happens with chords, although we have to change things around because of the tuning of the guitar, right? It depends on how you tune it and stuff. But generally that's it. And then as soon as I move that second finger out, now I'm in a new position. Now I'm in 4th fret position. So these 4th, you know, position off 4th fret. So that's kind of the way I've kind of always viewed it, which is very much like a classical guitarist would, you know. Yeah, so, yeah, I definitely say that's true. I just blew my amp up while watching you, Nick. Oh, no. Oh, dear. That's not good. I'm really enjoying this sound at the moment. I really want to get a Fredman now. I haven't. They're probably like $10 billion in New Zealand, and it'll take like, you won't get one till 2035. It's funny, isn't it, how you can play a couple of notes and it sort of suggests a song. That's a fun sound. That's a really inspiring sound. I'm actually thinking about kind of modifying my FM9 preset to kind of include that as a lead tone. Or this. It's actually the same sound, but I put an 808 on it, and using the 808 as its EQ, you know, bump the mids up, pull out a little bit of the bottom end to make it shape. Bummer, hope your amp's fixable. I've been working on different voicings for chords. Notice that even subtle changes can really affect the sound. How much do you consider as a studio guy? It's essential that you consider chords, right? Especially with what I do. You know, I just had a session earlier today with someone, and went in and played some guitar parts for an album, and we were kind of talking about various chord voicings and things. And the first thing, there was a keyboard line I was thinking about doubling. And actually in the end I said, man, you should double it, because he's a really good guitar player, my friend. But, where are we? Let's go with that. Like if I think about, the chords were whatever they were, but this was the line. The important bit there is the top note. That's where our ear is drawn to. So if I play a chord like this, most people's ears are going to go, right? And the combination of what's on the bottom and what's on the top. I remember when I used to transcribe a lot as a teenager, I used to, Steely Dan was always something I really struggled with trying to figure out the chord voicings that we were using. And funny enough, I remember talking to my guitar teacher, John O'Connor, about it at the time, and he was like, yeah, Steely Dan is something he struggled with too. But the way to do it is to start the bottom, find the root note, find the top note, and then you kind of know a position you're going to be in and fill the rest in. Is it major, is it minor, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really... it's really important, because if you don't consider voicings, you're not considering the melodic idea that a chord voicing can create. If I play something like this, E flat major, F minor, G minor, I could go. Most people's ears will hear, right? And I can voice that in many different ways. Right? So those are all like sounds that are really important. Super important that you consider like the structure of how things work and all that kind of stuff. Unrelated question, do you use the same gauge strengths on all your guitars? I don't actually, no. I use, for the longest time I've used 11 to 49 Elixirs, and that's what I've had on all my guitars. But when we did We Will Rock You, I started getting pain in my arm down here. Like I get to the end of the gig and my hand was just shot. My arm, you know, and it was quite scary actually. I remember one night it was so sore at the end of the gig that I thought, gee, if this was a double show day where I have a daytime show and an evening show, I wouldn't have been able to play. And so first thing I did was change gauge of strings from 11s to 10s, right? And it wasn't, but it wasn't that actually. It was the positioning. The other guitar player was right here, because you know, and so I was sitting with my guitar like this, putting my hand in an awkward angle, and then playing Brian May guitar parts all night with lots of bends. And no wonder, you know, after 3 hours my hands and my arm were shot. So I just had to get him to move, and Tom's a dude, he was really cool, so he moved, and that fixed the problem. When I could get back into it, I sort of jumped into a position like this, so more a classical stance to make sure my back was straight, my hands in the right place, and no problem afterwards. But it made me think, I'm going to go to 10s kind of from now on a lot of guitars. But depends. So this has 10s. This one has 10s on it. Surprisingly, this guitar here actually feels pretty heavy in terms of the feel of the neck. This feels really light and buttery, and like you can bend notes super easily. But on this guitar, it definitely has more tension. And I think I know the reason why. I remember seeing recently something about Cortisol necks. If you have a look there, you can see a little bit of, I think they call it flicking or something. It's like a little bit of flicking that runs down right down the center of the neck. So that's a sign of a Cortisol neck, right? And so I think Cortisol necks feel have more tension. So this has more tension even with 10s on it. Like I can feel that straight away that there's more tension on this because it's Cortisol necks, right? So to me, I've gone 10s on this, I've gone 10s on that one. The dirty old Telecaster still has 11s on it, and they feel the same. This is not a Cortisol neck, so it feels like it has a little more give. You know, when you bend a string, you can kind of feel the neck sort of flex and move with it. So I find that, you know, this suits 11s. I have 11s on my Sko guitar, I have 10s on my Talman. I have 11s on my Les Paul. I think the Les Paul really suits the heavier strings. So for me, it's like, it's the tension. So what I always did was, for a long time, I used to use 10s on my Strat scale guitars and 11s on my Gibson scale guitars. Then I kind of just went, nah, screw this, and now I'm having to buy 2 sets of strings. So I just kind of went to 11s on everything, and I just put up with having more tension on them. But then when I had that issue the other month, I just thought, gee, I can't do this with this thing. So to now I'm kind of changing it all, and I'm kind of going, right, what suits each particular instrument? This guitar here, I think, just suits 10s better. They got a bit more sparkle. Subtle though, I mean, it's not, you know, use whatever works. You know what the hardest thing is doing sessions? I thought about that when I was on the session this morning for a friend's album actually. Like one of the hardest things for me about doing sessions is knowing what people want. I know it seems crazy, doesn't it? I remember doing a session for someone once, and it was like we were doing it was for the Brian Edwards TV show here, and he kept saying to me he wanted Jeff Beck. So I played every kind of Jeff Beck thing I knew, and then in the end I just thought. I played something like that, and he went, "That's it," and that was the one. So effectively, I kind of composed his piece of music for him, but no, you know, whatever. But it was interesting. It was like he was saying Jeff Beck, but really what he meant was just like blues, right? He wanted a blues lick, and so it's trying to interpret what people want. So like this morning with the session from my buddy CC, you know, they wanted an intro part for it, right? And we were kind of going over all these things, and the engineer kind of wanted me to play more notes, and CC, the producer, composer, wanted me to play kind of more melodic, I think, like kind of Clapton-esque, you know, so I was getting kind of mixed messages, and I was really struggling with it. In the end, like I did a bunch of takes, and I kind of, you know, they were all fine, like you could use any of them if you wanted to, but none of them kind of, to me, felt right. And then at one point I said to Phil, the engineer, I said, can we just go back and I'll do one more take. This time I'm just going to use one finger. And I played, it was an E minor, and I kind of played something like, played something kind of melodic and what I thought suited it. Yeah, so whether they use it or not, I don't know. But it was interesting, like just changing my whole approach to it to try and get to what the thing is. And I think the thing nowadays is like tracks are largely unlimited, aren't they? Right? People can play as many. You can do as many tracks as you want. So I like to give people options. So I'll play a part, and then I'll get this jacket off. It's super annoying. So I'll play them as many different options as possible. You know, like I'll give them, you know, different tones, different things. They kind of knew what tone they wanted, but I still give them options anyway. What's your sleepwalk chords for F and G? A minor, F, G. Sleepwalk. Do you mean? That one. I think it's. So C, da, 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 da. So yes, C, A minor, and then it's an F minor, which is the 4 minor chord, right? So we have 1, 6, 4 minor, 5, 1. I think that's the basic gist of Sleepwalk, right? It's really pretty. I was talking about it the other day. My favorite chord progression right now, one that I'm trying to use a lot, is actually a 4 chord minor, but it's a different, something that I actually kind of stumbled across by accident. So if we're in the key of C, check this out, it's really pretty, right? The 4 chord minor would be F minor. Pretty common in classical music, right? But used in all kinds of stuff too, right? But my favorite chord progression right now is take that 4 chord minor and put the 3rd in the bass, or in this case the minor 3rd. Right? Oh, that's so lush. And then if you want to resolve, you can also go from that A flat down to the G. So you can go. It's cool, eh? I haven't played Sleepwalk in ages. Last time I played that was when I did the show Grease, which must be 15 years ago. I think I played that show. And it was funny. We had the song Sleepwalk to do, and there was no chart. There was just like a little, it said, you know, play whatever, and the actor is going to mime out the front. And I knew the guy. I'd worked before with the guy who was playing the acting role of playing guitar at the front, because we were behind a curtain, right? You couldn't see us. And so I thought I'd mess with him a little bit. And after the first night, he came up to see me, and he was like, "Dude, you're absolutely killing me when I have to do that fake guitar solo." He goes, "I'm trying to match what you're doing," and he goes, I can't when you're doing all that kind of fancy stuff." Because all he wanted was. I think that's what it was supposed to be. And there was that chord, right? Pretty cool. Nice. I trying to use the G6 sometimes. Yeah, you can use G6. I mean, the only thing with any chords like that is sometimes you have to kind of consider two things, right? You have to consider like what's the context in which I'm playing this in. Sometimes a G6 chord could be too old-fashioned, and maybe some people might go, okay, that's too old-fashioned. It really just needs to be G, right? So style is a part of it, right? And also what other people are doing in the melody, particularly. If you're clashing with the melody, then change what you do, without a doubt. I mean, one of the big ones there, if you look at the chord, C, G, right? It's the flat 7th of the A minor, and then the F minor chord, it's the F note. The A flat note of the melody, if I'm playing this right, I'm playing it by memory. It's really like a G7 flat 9. But I find that sometimes too, you don't necessarily need to state all of the chord, right? If the melody has the flat 9 and I play a G chord, and the melody has, that's cool. As long as, you know, I'm not clashing with it or deliberately clashing or whatever, you know. But as long as, I guess what I'm trying to say is as long as I'm supporting it, then that's all good. But I don't necessarily have to voice my chord with that note too. The other thing too is if you're playing with singers and they're singing a tune like that, and you give every note on top of your chord as the note they have to sing, you're kind of taking any flexibility away from them to sing something else or change their stuff. You know, so you have to kind of look at that and go, well, how am I going to support this? So if your amp blew up while you were watching me, does that mean you were playing along? The guitar's sounding particularly good at the moment. I'm really stoked with it. The thing I find with this guitar too is having a maple neck. Maple necks are bulletproof, right? I don't think I've ever seen a maple neck broken. I mean, I know they can split along the tuners or whatever, you know, it's like it's possible, but not the classic Gibson break across there, right? Whereas this guitar, right, it's a telly with a broken headstock. You ever seen one? Whoop, sorry. This guitar, mahogany neck, it's kind of thin there. You know, if it took a hit, it might potentially go. So in the studio today, they had a Marshall there that, you know, I think it's JCM 800 or JCM 900. So we just dimed that thing up, everything up on 12 basically. It was so much fun. It was the same studio I did that session in the other day, the one which I posted as one of my stories with the Marshall. Yes, so Simon says, didn't catch the start. Were those the new Mr. Glynn's? Yes, they are. These are in. So I have black covers on here, and I had the original Porritt Smith pickups in here. Interestingly enough, when I swapped them out, I had a look on the back of the pickups that were there. There was a little sticker, little yellow sticker that had the rating of each pickup in it. So I tested it with my multimeter, and they were accurate. 8.5, 8.5, and 11.5. So a P90 that's 11.5 is pretty damn hot. So it's no wonder it was like, you know, the EQ was shifted into a different kind of place. So even with 1 meg pots, it still wasn't getting the brightness that I needed. So I've gone to 500k pots, and then these are the new Mr. Glynn's, which are 10% underwhelmed P90s, and they sound really good. I'm super happy with it. So I would describe them as a P90 that still has push, but has more sparkle than a typical P90, which to me is kind of the thing that's always been missing from this guitar, is that bit of sparkle on it. Glenn also did a reverse wound on this. I'm actually going to do a video about it and talk about it, because I think, you know, it's important to discuss these things, but that's a reverse wound pickup that sounds really good. And having reverse wound means you get silent operation and positions 2 and 4, so those 2 pickups you get silent, those 2 pickups you get silent. So having that on, because P90s, I don't know if you all have used them much, P90s are really noisy. That's, you know, they're such a big magnet for a single coil that they just pick up noise, right? So having a silent position is awesome, and being able to switch to that easily. Yeah. So yeah, it's up and running, but I'm going to do a video about it and talk about kind of the process, about how I swap them out. And you know, sometimes people are scared to do that stuff themselves. It's really not that hard. What's the worst that happens? You know, you stuff it up, get someone to fix it. I don't have to split in a minute, people, but if you just join me, please like the video, because all that stuff helps. There's no real sponsor of this channel. I've kind of talked about that before. It's sort of, the main thing is just, I appreciate everybody kind of watching, and, you know, if you want to get my album, the reamped album that's on Bandcamp, it's free on there, so go and have a listen, download it. I did it in Los Angeles at Gary Novak's studio. Gary Novak was the drummer for Alanis Morissette, and with Chick Corea, and with George Benson and Alan Holdsworth. He's a legend. So he was the engineer, and it was Dylan Elise, who's now the drummer from Blood, Sweat and Tears, and Benjamin Shepherd, who Ben Shepherd's my friend from New Zealand. They're both Kiwis, but now living in LA. And Ben at the time was playing with Peter Erskine and everyone. You know, he was probably one of the first cool LA bass players at the time, getting a lot of gigs. You know, like John Patitucci and people like that were coming out to check out his gigs. You know, getting pretty heavy. So anyway, we jumped in the studio and we did that, and I recorded that actually with my Talman guitar. So I was there anyway. We were playing at the Monterey Jazz Festival. They had a Princeton in the house. They had a 1965 Princeton, which I never saw. They had it in an ISO booth in another room, and we ran a cable through the wall, through a wall mount thing, and into the amp. And they said, what do you want to do? I said, turn the amp up to about 4 or 5, set treble in the middle, bass in the middle, No, sorry, it's just a tone control, I think. Set it in the middle, and that was all we did. All right, and then I kind of did everything from here and a few pedals, and that was kind of the sound on that album, but it came out really good. I was super stoked with it. Neve preamp, of course. But yeah, that was the sound, was a little Princeton. And funny enough, when I got back to New Zealand, I punched in a couple of little bits that I wasn't totally happy with. Maybe 2 or 3, and I used the fractal Princeton model in the AX8, and I don't think anyone's even noticed that I did that. Question here from RW. What does RW stand for too, by the way? Have you been to Blues Fest in New South Wales? I haven't. I need to get over to Australia to play more, actually. I've been thinking about that a lot. I saw some advertising. I must fit the criteria for the Noosa Guitar Festival, which I saw Leon Todd's going to play at, so that'll be awesome. I'd love to go and play there. I think that Noosa's a really pretty place. That'll be one I'd like to go. Oh, Rod W. Thank you, Rod. So I'd like to play at Noosa. I'd love to go to Blues Fest. I've never been. There was talk of the Melbourne Guitar Show next year. I thought it was every year, but it's actually it's biannual. Biannual, or what do you call it when it's every second year? Is that biannual? Doesn't biannual mean twice in a year? Whichever, every second year. So there was talk of that last night with one of the Fender people at in Australia. We had a bit of a yarn about stuff, and we were talking about various things. So maybe there's something we could do there. That'll be really cool. I've been a long time Fender amp user. That's kind of one of my things. I use the Fender FR10. I have 2 Victorias, which are based off Fenders. I've had 2 deluxe reverbs, the 65 reissues. I've had about 4 Fender Twins over the years. So I'd love to get over there and do something there, but I should go and play in Australia more. Adam Miller, I don't know if you guys know Adam Miller, but you should. We met at the NAMM show about 5 years ago, and we were talking about it, just saying, well, it's about time we did something, and I'd like to get over and we do a 2-guitar thing with Adam. Would be fun. He's a badass. He sounds freaking awesome. And then go and hang with Leon Todd and people like that would be awesome too. Leon's killer. I was on their podcast with him and Troy. Troy's a killer guitar player too. If you guys don't know Troy, from the Gear podcast, Troy can really play. He's a rockin' dude, so get over there and do some stuff. So yeah, I think 2025 will be my year for getting over to Australia. But first we're going to do the NAMM show in January, so we'll be over at NAMM show. So if anyone's at the NAMM show, let me know. Let's meet up and have a beer or a coffee or just chew the fat. Go and nerd out over guitar gear. I'm into it, that's why I'm going to be there. I will be taking a heap of videos while I'm there, because why not, I'd like to talk about the Nano Cortex too at some point, but I had a look online and they're not going to be in New Zealand until the end of October. How ridiculous is that, right? The whole world has got them, and then New Zealand doesn't get them for like at least another month, maybe longer. That's what they're saying. They might even be later than that, but I'd like to get my hands on one of them and check it out and just see. Seems like a pretty good option. I like the capture function. Like, it was a really big surprise to me, that unit. Wasn't what I thought it was going to be, But yeah, I'd like to get over to Australia more. So we'll be doing LA and Alaska in January. So Alaska's we're going to go and visit my dear friend Kelly and her family. Go and hang out with them for a week in Alaska, and just generally go to Alaska because I've never been. We'll be in LA because the NAMM show, and LA. I love LA. So it'll be my 11th time to LA. Should be fun. I'm hoping to get to the Melbourne Guitar Festival next year. I'd love to go to Blues Fest. If someone has an inroad, let me know. Yeah, just go and play around Australia more. It's really close. 3 hours to Sydney on a plane. It's not far. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please like if you haven't already. Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow for the regular scheduled Guitar Daily. Cheers.